What is happening, y'all? Cowboy here, and welcome to my hammer build for Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. And in particular, this is a Para-Hammer build. Now, if you've never played Para-Hammer before, you are missing out on what I would consider to be one of the most entertaining ways to play Hammer. Hammer is a weapon that obviously benefits from the monster being stuck, locked down, so being able to get constant paralysis, as well as constant KOs and constant flinches, really pulls Hammer. It makes it such a beautiful thing. Through the addition of some new Silkbind attacks, we are seeing ridiculous amounts of paralyze going on off. So either way, let's take a look at the build. This is pretty straightforward. It's got a fair amount of damage on top of that. Got a little bit of healing baked into it. And all in all, I think it's a really fun playstyle. So similar to the other builds, we're going to start off with the Talisman, which of course we are using that 3-1-1 attack boost Wirebug Whisperer. I'm a really big fan of the Wirebug abilities on Hammer. I like them a lot. I feel like the newer ones get us a lot of multi-hits, whereas on our more damage-oriented loadout, we have stuff like Impact Crater just doing a ton of damage. So I'm a big fan of that. You don't necessarily have to have 3 attack, 3 Wirebug. You could get crit boost, Wex, really whatever you need here, but I would suggest trying to get Wirebug. We have a fair amount of utility decos, so there's some good flexibility in how you load this out, and we'll get into that in a little bit. As for the weapon themselves, we have 2 real choices here. We have the Armored Megagog, or we have the Iron Giant Soul. Now, the biggest difference between them being that the Iron Giant Soul has 10 more raw, but it has less paralysis. It has a level 2 rampage slot compared to level 1, but you'll notice the sharpness. It has a very limited amount of white on it, whereas the Volvidon hammer, the armored one we're working with, has a pretty comfy amount of white. So between testing the 2 of these, ultimately I found myself more comfortable using Volvidon's hammer. I was getting more paralyzes, and of course the sharpness was just lasting longer, but you could definitely run this with either. Now moving on down from there, so we got the extra point of crit working in there. For the Espiness Sprain, it's going to be our helm. This picks up all 3 points of paralysis attack. We get some part breaker on it, and then 2 level 2 deco slots for tenderizer. As for the armor choices, we have a lot of Arc Fiend. As always, it's just a really solid set. We're looking for damage. We got Wex, Resentment, Chain Crit. I can work in Redirection and another Destroyer deco. Over here, we have the Arc Fiend Hands, and we've worked in a Hard Steadfast to give us that stun resistance. The Malzeno Coil, because the monster is going to be KO'd or paralyzed, so we're able to really take advantage of that blood right as we're constantly bashing on the head. And then, of course, the Arc Fiend Armor Ceros on the boots, picking up that Dereliction and Resentment bonus to help round those on out. And we have the deco slots for Redirect and some crit. And then when you pull this all together, we got a pretty stacked status build. We still have attack boost 4, crit boost 3, and Wex 3, and some resentment. We got paralysis attack up at 3, we got part breaker at 3, we got some utility with stun resistant, speed sharpener, and Wirebug. Our derelictions at 3, our blood rights at 2. We have redirection, which is really nice because it's going to give us access to a basically an iframe dodge with hammer. If you don't want that, of course, you could instead work your attack even higher or add in some more crit. We have Wall Runner to help with the Wirebugs even more, a point of chain crit, and then of course my favorite ability, Quick Breath. So all in all, very straightforward build. As you can see, we're currently sitting at 52 paralysis, and that's without the dereliction bonus. This gets up above 60, which is a lot of paralysis. We're locking down that monster. Now talking about the switch skills for a build like this, keep in mind with dereliction, the paralysis bonus is going to be with the red scroll, whereas raw damage is going to be with the blue scroll. So we've picked appropriate skills for each of those categories. Looking at the red scroll, we have regular spinning bludgeon, which is a bunch of different attacks. The Silkbind splidging bludgeon, God damn, that's a tongue twister. But you know, we're spinning through the air to spin to win. And then the new ability, Impact Burst, which you'll spin the hammer around on the ground. It's going to help flinch monsters, but on top of that, we end up wrapping the hammer in Iron Silk. So this is actually really, really good for this because of the multi-hit nature. It's almost similar to when we do the Infernal Melody, I believe it's called, with the hunting horn, and you spin it around. So lots of little hits and lots of chance to get that paralysis burst. Because the thing with status is it's not every hit that's going to cause the status. It's like a chance on a hit. So the more hits, the better. Now for our blue scroll, obviously swapping to that, we get a damage boost. So over here, we're going Charge Switch Strength. We're going Spinning Bludgeon Charge. So if I do a Spinning Bludgeon, I can go straight up into the level 3 ability. We have Dash Breaker, and then of course Impact Crater. Now the way you want to play this is really going to be up to you. You could either start in red and focus on getting your first paralysis and then swap to blue for a little bit, or you could just sit in red and try to punch as many paralyzes as possible. I find that I tend to swap back and forth between them because I am going to be obviously taking advantage of things like redirection and quick breath. So I'm not terribly worried about staying in one and getting to the tier 3 dereliction buff, but you could certainly do that if you wanted to. The point is you're going to have more raw damage over here and you're going to be pushing a paralyze with this. So the other thing that I want to touch on is when I was putting this together, initially I actually tried making this with Garangolm because we have Charge Master. The thing is, Charge Master is a percentage base boost at level 3. I believe it goes all the way up to a 15% increase to paralyze. But the thing is, we're getting a flat bonus with Dereliction. And the 15% paralyze, I mean, even if we're looking right now, we're at 52. 52 times 0.15 gives us what? That's roughly 8 paralysis. Meanwhile, Dereliction gets us up to, I believe, 8 at only level 2 and 15 going up to level 3. So ultimately you're gonna see better returns on Dereliction, but if you don't like working with that, and I know a lot of people don't because of the health loss, you could certainly do a more budget version of this build. You have to swap in Charge Master here, and then here, and you'd have to pick up your paralysis via deco somewhere else, but you could certainly make something like that work. So this is actually a build that I really like for multiplayer hunts, you know, because we're just bringing constant KOs and paralysis into the fold, and I think that is where Hammer really shines, you know. No one ever thinks of Hammer as like a support weapon, but in my mind, I'm like, oh, if I'm playing Hammer, my job is to lock this thing down. I don't want it moving, and this build does an excellent job at that. So to help demonstrate that, we are actually going to be doing a support survey. I believe it was in 3. Yeah, there we go. We're going to go after Tigrix. We'll lock him down. Let's go... What do I want to bring? I want to bring stuff that has limited stun potential so we can see all the stuns and paralyzes coming from me. Wow, you have everything. Alright, we'll give you your dual words now. Shoot with a greatsword. Screw it. Let's do double greatswords. Yes, and you as well. This Tigrix is going to get obliterated. I mean, so far in testing with this, I've found that on support surveys at least, I'm usually getting 3 to 4 paralyzes per hunt. And that's just purely, like, just me smacking shit. So, it works pretty well. Obviously, if you're doing this with multiple people, and you know, you have things like endemic life and whatnot adding into the mix, you're just going to see even more paralyzes. But all in all, it puts in the work and accomplishes what I wanted it to do. Love the banter between them. The support survey is honestly great. When we get to this thing, we're gonna have the triple dereliction, which is just gonna be a bunch of paralyze going out. I'm guessing we engage, I'll see the first paralyze in like sub 30. Especially if I can actually hit the water strike. I'm really bad about that. Oh, he bagged up. Okay. Yeah, screw sub 30. That was what, like a 6-second paralyze? Ooh, tried to get my dodge off and missed it. I'm really bad at actually hitting this, but I'm gonna try anyway. Oh! Got it. Oh, they're gonna be running around doing all this. I'm gonna grab some stuff. I wonder if that will count towards my paralysis buildup. Be interested to see. We'll get the sharpness topped off. He's probably going to try to run away soon. Let me just get a regular heal. So I want to bonk his head, but running face first at a Tigrex head when you only have 30% of your health, that's just asking to get carded. It definitely takes a lot of practice to get used to redirection, but like right there when he came at me, just timing it, boop, dodge, no. Because like hammer, you know, you don't really have the... It's a little bit tricky to get out of the way sometimes for like those closer attacks, so giving hammer a dedicated dodge via that actually feels very, very nice. It's like a solid all-around quality of life improvement on the weapon, I feel. Oh, come on. Give me the big hits. There we go. And keep in mind, these support quests, I mean, as far as I know, I'm pretty sure it's multiplayer health, because, like, a normal Tigrex would be dead already. I don't know if it's, like, exactly scaled to 3, or if it's, like, some weird modifier, but I know it's not a one-player health hunt. This is probably it. Ah, they got the mount off. Damn. He was about to die right there too, I think. I'll let them crash and do whatever you need to do. Actually, I could probably trap him and just cap him since they're... Can I do this? Yeah, I can. Get off a bit, Arlo, come on. I'm like, this thing was about to die, and Arlo was like, but wait, I'm gonna mount it. Like, no, stop. Let it die. It would have been a sub 10 if Arlo didn't mount it right there. I mean, I wasn't keeping track. I think that was like 3 or 4 paralyzes, though. I know we had that one that popped up right at the end. It's like, Tigrex gets ready. Oh, no, no it doesn't. Tigrex goes back to being stunned up. So, definitely a really fun playstyle, like I said. You're just locking down the monster. And, I mean, personally, I feel like Hammer a lot of the times, it just gravitates towards, like, more damage. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but when I think of, like, just puring out on damage, I usually end up going with Greatsword, and so I like to, you know, mix it up. I don't just want to do pure damage with every weapon. I think Hammer is definitely one where, you know, doing something like that with the Para-Hammer does work really well with that playstyle. So, either way, thanks for coming on by. Not sure what weapon is going to be up next, but we will have it up in just a couple days. So stay tuned, and I'll see you all then.